What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting all the way across the city from me this week and every week, he's the king of all VR kings, the Silph King himself. Pray for true peace in space. It's Jeremy King.
Nice. Yeah, I don't even know how to follow that up besides the fact that I could put my goddamn snow boots on and fucking trike over to you because we've got like at least, 3-4 inches of snow on October 30th. And,
That's like 6 inches, isn't it? I was just saying.
Yeah. And, but his radiance melts the snow all in his area. So finding that heat source, and at the center of it, you will find Brian. Oh.
Wow. And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we dip into the PSVR archive. We pull out a game at random. We dust the blow off of it. We play the crap out of it. We see if it's been given any love by developers, any updates, any DLC. And then we let you know, the loyal game cats, if it's worth your time. That being said, Mr. King, what game did we decide to play this week?
We played Pixel Ripped 1995.
Pixel Ripped 1995 by Avery Immersive Experiences, released May 12th, 2020. Not that old of a game.
No.
This is going to be a hard question to answer, I think. What kind of game is Pixel Ripped 1995?
It is a VR retro platform experience game because there's so much into it.
It's a VR platform experience retro game. I took all the words you gave me and just rearranged them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that, man. It's tough. It's tough to kind of classify this thing because I kept thinking, oh, it's like a collection of retro games that you play in VR. I was like, no, but it's so much more than that. Because it really it has a narrative kind of focus where it like kind of pulls you through each of the levels, and there's a reason for you to be there, and it does tell a cohesive story. It's not just like, hey, you're playing the Sega Genesis Classic Collection.
So not a Namco VR. Museum Volume 2 or whatever it might be. Remember those Namco museums?
Those were huge ripoffs. They could have put everything on one disc.
Well, instead they made several volumes and made much money many times over on games they've already sold. But anyways,
much money many times over. Give me the rundown, man. What's the premise of Pixel Ripped 1995?
It's the same premise as the first Pixel Ripped. This character in this video game and this Cyblin Goblin lord takes over the real world, and you need to kind of connect with an actual player in the real world, us, to take on Cyblin and make sure he doesn't take over this world like he has the digital world.
So as the people who are playing in VR, our name is David. We're a 9-year-old boy, and we're thrust into this family situation, which I feel like is a lot different than 89. If you and I talked about Pixar 1989 a few months ago, and in that game you played as Nicola, and she was a young girl, and she seemed really rebellious, right? Like she'd be in class, and she was playing her Game Kid. Is that what it was called? Like the Game Kid?
Yeah, something like that. Game Kid, yeah.
Right, and she had to hide it under her desk so her teacher wouldn't see that she was playing it, and causing lots and lots of distractions and stuff, and being a real nuisance, getting sent to the principal's office, and the whole thing just sort of had this real rebellious attitude about it.
Yeah.
I got from the get-go in this game that 1995 just has more of a family-friendly feel to it. Did you get that sense?
Yeah, I guess family-friendly in a sense, if you want to go the wholesome route, but I feel like the first Pixel Ripped had a little bit more organic of a feel to it and a little bit less forceful of a feel of how it played out in the VR. This definitely seemed a little bit more of a forced scenario, if you will.
Give me a little bit more on that, man. Elaborate on why it felt forced.
Well, all right, so the first one, you had this game kid, and you were playing video games at school, hiding it from the thing, trying to distract the teacher and whatnot so you could continue to play. Where this was like you were in your living room, and your mother just really wanted you to stop playing. So she would just be like, oh, you better stop playing, but you can play another minute. I'm just going to use the phone. And then she would use the phone and then instantly like, David, you're still on there? And I want to be like, you just fucking told me I could keep playing.
Right.
And so I had to pick up something to distract her then afterwards, where she clearly knew it was me that would distract her, and she would just go for the bait instead of being like, you little shit.
Yeah.
Whereas in the classroom atmosphere, you were hiding, you were playing, the teacher would roam around and you could distract and she'd be like, what? And there was a bunch of students, so you never truly knew who the blame was from.
Right. You're using
This was
spitballs
like,
and stuff. It was a little more subtle.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
there was more areas to interact with. Um, so I feel like that made it feel more real. I keep doing the air quotes today with this. It's a lot of that.
I'm gonna stop you there and say I 100% agree, and I think that especially the first level, but you're in for a long time. I think all of these games, I'm already getting to my rating. I feel like all of these games go on way too long.
I agree. They
Right.
definitely seem like you spend more time in these games than you did the last time. They were a lot quicker last
Yeah.
time,
It felt
you
like
know?
some good variety last time, and it felt like this time it's like, man, I've been playing this first 16-bit, like I want to call it a Link to the Past clone,
Yeah.
but it's not because it has like zero RPG elements. You're literally just walking around an overworld, you're collecting pixels, and you can talk to people, but you don't have to, and you're just basically following the path, and you have basically one attack. You're shooting them. You're just kind of going through the motions. There's no magic button. There's no anything. Like these games are very shallow, which
Hmm.
would be fine, but you do
Yeah.
play them for so long that the shallowness becomes apparent way too quickly, I think.
Yeah. It's almost like the first one was MTV and this one was VH1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you can kind of get that,
Yeah, the whole it
where,
just has a softer edge to it all around.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I mean had its pluses and minuses because I got to tell you, when I first started playing it, like, you know, I was, it made me smile many times because it brought me back to that retro. It made me want to play a goddamn old sprite game like
Yeah.
yeah, I can't even think, an old N64 game or Super Nintendo type of RPG like a Secret of Mana. It made me want to play something like that.
Yeah.
And I felt that it was nice. They really got the feel for the '90s video game era. They got that feel down pretty well.
Yeah. And so that first stage where you are using the gun and you're distracting your mom, it felt
Yeah,
way too much of like copy and paste from the first game.
yeah,
So it was nice that after that stage, it started to feel a little bit different. They started to experiment with the formula a little bit more,
hmm,
and it started to come into its own. I think very quickly after the first stage was over. But I do want to talk about the DualShock 4 in this game because
yeah,
obviously you need to use the DualShock 4. Your character David is almost always holding like a 16-bit controller, so it's
yeah,
perfect because the button layout for the DualShock 4 is exactly the same as a Super Nintendo controller, right?
yep,
So you're holding that and you look down, it's like it's virtually identical. It's almost perfect,
hmm,
and that's the good part about using the DualShock 4.
yeah,
But anytime you have to reach out, like take your hand off the controller,
yep,
you have to hold R2 to release your right hand or hold L2 to release your left hand. And it just felt so cumbersome. There's no good way around this, I don't think, because like 95% of the game, you're just doing this and it's perfect. This is what you need
yeah.
to be doing. But then for that other 5%, I'm like, oh, I'm dreading having to do anything that's not holding the gamepad.
Yeah, yeah, no, I hear you. There was it would lose something in that moment, like especially the scene where you're in the back of the car and you got to
Hmm.
throw the bananas out, the banana peels to,
Yeah.
and so like doing that portion, you gotta look down, press the button, grab the banana, throw, and sometimes it'd be the disconnect when you were looking back up, nothing would happen because oh, my hand wasn't grabbing the controller again somehow.
Right.
And then I don't know, there was that level when you were in the store, the video rental store
Hmm.
and which I thought was really creative level actually, where you jump between the two consoles.
Yeah.
And I used to grab and let go and grab, and then I realized you didn't have to. I could just go like this with my controller, my DualShock, and David would automatically grab the other controller.
Yeah.
So sometimes it works, sometimes you didn't need to do it, but they didn't tell you when you did or didn't need to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was some disconnect with that. And then when you did have to grab things, I'm so used to it because you know me and DualShock. So, like with that light sensor in the front that they have, you always have to aim it at the camera for it to pick up. Like with Five Nights at Freddy or anything like that, where if you churn it, or even Wolfenstein, it doesn't recognize movement. So you have to like move your controller kind of like this.
Right.
So I was used to that, knowing I had to grab something and I would just do this and grab. And so the signal, I didn't have too many issues, but I saw the potential for issues, with that whole setup with the DualShock.
Yeah, and there actually is a new option that wasn't there at launch where you can select if you want to use the DualShock 4 tracking or not. And so you can just kind of have the controller be there and you kind of just like use your head and you look at something and hold R2 and it kind of grabs that thing. Or you can use the actual tracking and reach out and try to grab things. Again, both of them feel finicky and just awkward, but at least the option is there if you want to experiment with them.
Yeah.
I think most of this game is fueled by nostalgia. If you are of our age, or if you are fascinated by the 16-bit era, I think that this game has your name written all over it. And there's references to Metroid, to Sonic, to Road Rash, Crash Bandicoot, Streets of Rage. I mean, so many, so many.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite stage?
I almost like the Overland beginning one, the Secret of Mana type of thing, but I thought the Crash Bandicoot was awesome. The Castlevania one was a blast too.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, so I'm kind of one of those three. Stuck with me the most. The Star Fox area too.
Yeah.
That was pretty rad too. So I don't know if I have an overall favorite or a couple of ones that I thought were really enjoyable. And I would say it's like those few that I really enjoyed because I was so familiar with them,
Right.
Not that I wasn't unfamiliar with any of them, but you know what I mean? Like certain games you stuck with when you were younger, and then it's like, oh yeah, I get to do this again now in VR. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, everything about the Castlevania stage was perfect for me because it had some decent platforming and some cool secrets. And on top of it, the whole thing is, if you haven't played this, then you're basically playing, you're playing, is it Super Castlevania 4 inspired?
Yeah.
You're
Definitely
playing, you're playing
I was
that.
waiting for the chandelier to be there. Remember that?
Yeah, for sure. And so you're playing it at night, and your mom told you to go to bed already, and basically your door is open, and there are a couple things in the game that are really loud. If you accidentally shoot a bell, it'll make a loud noise. If you accidentally step on, I think it's like wooden planks or branches or whatever it is. Yeah, they crack. Or if your companion character looks at himself in the mirror, he's like, whoa, he's like very impressed by himself. And any of those three things will wake your mom up, and she'll go, David, is that you? And the light will turn on in the hallway, and you have only a second to hold R2 to release your hand from the DualShock, and then grab the remote control and turn your TV off and sit there in silence and be like, and this is what I love, is that not only is that such a cool mechanic, like this is sort of the defining level for Pixar 95 for me. Like I think the first level in 89 was the defining level.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is the one I remember, and like that makes this feels like Pixar 95 to me, because it's not only that you're there and you turn off the TV real fast and you wait, but it's also your mom has like these really funny lines.
Yeah.
Where she's like, was that you, David? Oh, I'm starting to hear these noises in my sleep. And she's constantly making references that, like, I think a lot of parents did back in the day, being like, video games are going to rot your brain. Video games will burn your retina. Do you want your retinas burned? Like, I mean, any little rumor that they heard about video games, they try to impart on you to convince you to stop playing them.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny. All of them were legit ones I've heard many times, not maybe from my parents directly, but just, especially when she'd be on the phone chatting, because the lady is a real estate agent, right?
Yeah.
And so she's always on the goddamn phone, and she's always referencing some sort of something to do with you and playing video games and how she can't get you to stop, and all these horror stories associated with people that can't stop playing games.
The neighbor boys in the window saying, "This is why you're not getting taller. Video games are stunting your growth." And your mom immediately believes him and goes, "Do you think that's it? Do you think that's the reason he's not getting taller?" It's just so ridiculous, but hilarious.
Prick. I couldn't stand that kid.
My God. I didn't even like his character model, man. I was like, everything about him was irritating. So real quick, one of the things that was added, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this game for this episode was because of the version 1.04 update, which was the hardcore mode update. When this game launched, it felt really bare bones. There wasn't a lot going on. It was just like it was just the levels.
Okay.
So there were a bunch of things you saw while you were playing that didn't exist until just recently. The first
Like
thing
what?
is the difficulty mode. You can switch to hardcore mode, which
Yeah.
makes the game much harder. One of my biggest complaints about this game at launch was that I played through it and never died even once.
Yeah.
Playing with hardcore mode, I died many, many times.
Yeah.
The enemies are harder. When you collect all those pixels, they don't just fall out of you like Sonic rings. You're not able to pick like 10 of them back up right away, so it makes the game very hard.
Mm-hmm.
If you collect 30 pixels, you now have the ripped boost ability,
Yeah.
right? So you hold square and X, and then it does a screen clear. That was never there before.
Okay.
Also, the golden cartridges that are scattered around all the levels,
Yeah.
those were not there before either. And I got to tell you, going through these levels, especially that first one, it felt like a long game. Going through this overworld and just destroying all these bushes and destroying all the anything that you could destroy and like going off and exploring.
Yeah.
You were spending tons of time exploring for no reason whatsoever when you could just
Mm.
follow the path and get from beginning to end. Now there's a reason to explore. There's like 14 golden cartridges hidden around each level, and I found myself really enjoying taking my time in each game looking for
Yeah.
them. And just as a bonus, they're not just in the game. They're not just in the 2D 16-bit game that you're playing. They're also scattered around the real world environments that David is sitting in. There's like
Yeah.
sometimes you're sitting in the back of the car throwing bananas out onto the road,
Mhm.
and you look to your left, and there's just one sitting right next to you. It's like, oh, there it is. If you find all of them in each level, like I said, I
Yeah.
think it's 14. It unlocks a new costume for Dot. These didn't exist before.
Okay. Really? Even that was new. So how long from launch to this patch coming out went by?
The patch just came out, so it was a full May, June, July, August, September, October, full 5 months.
Huh.
And it just feels so much more complete now. It feels like a full game. It feels like something. It feels replayable. It feels more fun.
I was going to say, I can only imagine because I enjoyed searching for those as well, those cartridges. And then I remember when I discovered one out of the game, I was like, oh shit, that's where the other few could be hitting. Because I
Yeah,
found like a good majority in the first area and there was still some missing. I'm like, how the fuck? I looked everywhere.
yeah.
And then when I was in the back of the car and I saw that other one, I think that's where it dawned on me, like, oh, they can also be out. And I don't know why that disconnect happened with me. I guess that's
Same
a
thing
test.
happened to me for sure.
Well, I guess it's proof that this game like really locks you in because you almost forget you're in a game because you're sitting there staring at the screen and playing that game, and you're like, oh wait, but then this is still a game here too.
Hmm.
And what's funny is that even though it like looks like when the Simpsons, like a Simpsons game, I don't know, it had that kind of a feel to it when you were in your character, David. I 3 times in that first level, that living room, when that goddamn door opened, the mother came in the door, then the dad came in the door, and it freaked me. I was like, holy shit, like
Who
somebody
just
walked
opened the
right.
door to you, my house, my actual house?
Yes,
You forgot that
yes,
even though it looks like a cartoon, you think you're sitting in your living
yeah.
room playing a game on your TV.
God, even Resident Evil, is glorious as that looked, I mean, I got scared, but I didn't jump like that for something so goddamn simple like the door opening twice.
Right.
And I mean, like the head heat and all. I was like, oh my god! And then it did it to me again twice, and I couldn't believe it. So I mean, I thought that was great how it gives you that 2 levels, of depth to it, where you're you, then you're David, and then you're Dot, and you
Right.
forget to remove yourself. You forget to remove yourself from David when something happens. Oh yeah, I'm still David. It's awesome.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that was great. That immersion. It works,
I'm
which
glad.
makes me fearful because I don't think it'll work a third pixel ripped. I think again would be like this seemed a little bit like, it's like, oh man, I love cheeseburgers. I'm gonna have a cheeseburger today. Then you're like the next day, like that was a great cheeseburger. I'm gonna have another one. Then you eat it and you're like, yeah, it was all right. And now it's like you don't have a cheeseburger a third day. So it concerns me that doing all this again might not work. you know?
I don't think you love cheeseburgers as much as I do.
I'll
I could eat cheeseburgers every day for a month and be like, let's do this another month for sure.
call you wimpy. I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Very true. Very true. The last thing that this hardcore mode added, which again seems so natural, it seems like like how could this game exist without it? Very frequently, you run up to pixel doors, which are basically these stone doors that have a number written on them, and they only
Mhm.
open if you already have that number of pixels collected. Uh, and very frequently, the golden cartridges are hidden behind there, or big sections of the level. None of this existed before this hardcore
Wow,
mode
even
update,
too.
right? So
Wow.
you're starting to understand where this game was at launch. It just was very straightforward, very basic, um,
Yeah.
and now there's a whole lot more to it, and it's such a big deal, man. I'm so when I played it today, I figured, okay, I'll spend most of my time in the first level and collect all the golden cartridges, unlock an outfit,
Mhm.
and at least I'll be able to say, well, at least I did it for this level. I think I spent a lot of time looking around, and I found maybe 8
Yeah.
cartridges.
Mhm.
Like, so that makes me really happy because there are so many more hidden. I'm like, I don't even know where they are, and I'm excited to go back and spend more time in this game. So
This
this
patch seems like it could have added like a good like 30 to 40% more gameplay because that's all the stuff you
easily, yeah,
you mentioned. It's vast, you know, and
yeah.
it's time consuming and it is a hunt. So that's a big part of the game. I'm shocked that that stuff wasn't in the original title.
Yeah, all my favorite stuff I think came in this patch for sure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how long did it take you to finish this one?
It was about a little over 3 hours.
Yeah.
I did, unlike you, I died a few times, and I had to take a break at one point. So like I went through up until the car when you're in the back of the car,
Hmm.
and that's where I started to die, and I had to like stop playing. And then when I went back to it the next day, first I meant to snap and I missed. There we go. I snapped. So when I got back to it the next day, first try, done. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
needed that like buffer of time. So there was a couple of times dying. So I about 3 hours and 15, I would say. Not 3.5 hours, but enough. Yeah.
It does have a
You?
platinum. Oh yeah, I think under 3 my first time.
Mhm.
But again, my first time, it didn't have all this extra stuff. There was no reason to explore. There was no reason to do anything, and so you could plow through it pretty quickly. Maybe closer to 2.5 hours. I
Yeah.
see myself spending way more time with this game now. I want that platinum trophy. I want to unlock all the outfits. This is just yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot more to do here. Dude, I think we need to rate this.
Yeah. Me too.
What's our rating scale this week
Rating
and every
scale.
week?
Yeah. One, you got to get this game right the fuck now. This video, just pause right now and buy it. Pay extra. Two, wait till the video's over. Wait for a sale. Give it a couple weeks. It might go on sale around Black Friday. I don't know, but just wait for the sale and you'll enjoy it. Three, don't wait for a sale because you just don't want this game. Just go and buy Namco Museum Volume 1, 2, 3, 4, however many there were, then buy a console and never play it because you'll get more enjoyment doing that than you would by buying this game and playing this game. So, yes, Brian, what do you rate this sucker? One, two, or three?
Uh, I'm not going to go on a huge tangent here. I think I said a lot of my feelings about this already. As a retro gamer, as an older gamer, this speaks to me on so many different levels. I absolutely love the nostalgia vibes that it gives me, but at the same time, I also think there was a huge missed opportunity here. 1995 was a very eclectic year for gaming, and so the fact that they chose that year, but then didn't give us like a Doom clone at any point, uh, I was like, it just seems like there was too many things that could have been included that just weren't. Instead, we got this huge selection of very similar side-scrolling games. So even though I loved the Castlevania stuff, I loved what Castlevania was doing outside of the flat screen, what it was doing in the VR world. I liked that more than anything else. And so
Mm-hmm.
and so it just felt like, I understand that the Super Nintendo era, the Genesis era was about 2D platformers. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to make a game that sort of, exemplifies 1995 as a whole, I felt like I had three very similar experiences uh, right in a row, and I just felt like there was so much more they could have done with this year. There were some good examples of variety later on and even before that. So I don't want to complain too much about it. I just think it was a big missed opportunity to really say this is what 1995 was all about in terms of gaming. Despite my few complaints, I think it's so polished and it's so it just feels good and it's well written and funny and the graphics are really nice despite the cartoon look. Everything about this just kind of feels good. There's something about it though that I feel like it's already been there, done that. So I feel like I'm going back and forth so much, man. I'm seesawing so much right now, and I want to give this a super super duper strong two.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that as if it's overpriced that you should wait for a sale. I mean that as like you have to be the right kind of gamer for this, and you kind of have to know that if you played Pixel Rip 1989 already, which I think is actually the better game in the series, this is an excellent companion piece to that. It's more gives you more of what you loved about the first game.
Mm-hmm.
But if you played the first one and you were like, yeah, it was okay, you might have already had enough Pixel Ripped, which kind of speaks to what are they going to do for the third game, as you were already mentioning. Like, have they already run their course?
Yeah.
Super strong too, though. I love so much about this. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, and I think even the people that it is for, not everyone's going to love it.
I thought the first one was great.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this one was great as well too. Like I thought visually, it nailed it. It nailed that '90s feel to the video game where they were at that point.
Yeah.
And they definitely targeted the certain games that were staples for that time. But where, like I was mentioning before, the first one was just definitely MTV. It's just change, change, change. This is happening. That's happening. Just, ADHD. Let's do it. And then this one was more like, again, VH1. It was a little bit more calm.
Mm-hmm.
Let's spend a little bit more time here, then here, and here. And I think, where it did that, it kind of like overdid its welcome at certain points.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred the quicker, more chaos at home, for David, and then more variety for Dot in the game. I just feel like maybe a new villain might have been something to look into instead of Cyblin again, which I don't care. I get that. That's like Bowser for Mario. If they want to bring him back, they can. I thought visually the game was great. There was nothing about that I could complain about. I jumped, for Christ's sakes. I jumped. And then the game within the game, it looked great for what it should do. The handling and all that stuff, the controls were spot on. Yes, I wish there was some more variety. Like, I wish there was some turn-based portions of the games that you'd play in there because, that's around that time. Which
Oh
Final
yeah.
Fantasy was popular around there? 6 or something? I don't remember.
It would have been 6, which was 3 at the time, I think.
Yeah, because I remember my buddy playing it on, what was that, Super Nintendo or N64? I don't remember.
Super NES, yeah.
But I remember watching him do that. And this game would have been great if they had some turn-based elements to one of the games you were playing too, to really break it up. Like if they simply added a Doom and a Final Fantasy, I goddamn chopping these fingers off. I'm not going to do it. If they did a Final Fantasy one,
Yeah.
I think just adding that little bit would have made the variety a little bit faster paced and a little less time in the levels to then move on to the next thing to keep you stimulated. And again, it didn't lose me, but I just felt there was certain times it overdid its welcome, which is why it concerns me about a third, because from how fast paced and, rapid changing so much was going on in the first one to now the slower pace for the second one makes me nervous that the third one is like they just maybe running out of ideas of how to work within the confines of the game world that they've created. And I'm just wondering if a little bit more variety in the games would have changed that feeling for me and made me think, oh, well, no, they've got way more to tell, and they could easily do it. And they could. They absolutely could, because they did make a good game. The dialogue is good. The voice acting is good. Visually, it's good. The overall feel and it's very creative with what you need to do at the times you need to do it. In the game, mixing the two realities together. So I mean, I definitely with you thought this was an absolute solid two. Like I definitely think it's well worth the money. I agree with you where if you felt the first one was just like then yeah, it save you money. You might not dig this one. But if you're like, yeah, that was really good, then grab this one because it's like it made me smile, quite a bit. I thought it was really, really neat to be living in the game worlds that we grew up and matured along with us. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when we were kids playing the Atari and then 8-bit Nintendo. And then as we got older, the systems got a little more complicated and the stories got a little bit deeper and the controls were a little bit more difficult to learn. And then, now look at us. We're wearing headsets and this goddamn, it's a future. So I thought this game gave that good feel, where I don't know, it nailed our age range perfectly for what they presented. So yeah, I thought it was great, solid too.
Solid two. But hats off, man, because hats off to Anna Ribeiro and the team at Arvory because holy crap, they could have just left this game alone. They could have just been like, "Yep, here you go. This is the game." But they listened to all of the criticisms, and I swear it feels almost like a different game now with this version 1.04 hardcore mode update. So if you were waiting, this might be the time to pick it up. This game is way more fun than it was before, way more interesting, way more in depth. Feels like a complete game. Let us know in the comments below. Did you play Pixar of 1995 at launch? Did you play it after the update? What did you think? Did you like 89? Did you like 89 better? Like I can't get over the fact that I think 89 is better. It's less polished, more truant. Something about it, man. I absolutely love it. Let us know in the
Yeah,
comments below what you think, and also let us know what other games you want us to play because
yeah.
the list is long, keeps getting longer, and I've got a short attention span. So if you've already asked us to play a game, although Transference is probably on the list.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah,
Keep hearing transference from everybody. That's
yeah,
a one big. Yeah,
definitely Transference is on the list. If
yeah.
other than Transference, if you have any recommendations for us, please let us know in the comments below. Even if you asked before, ask again. For another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR, my name is Brian Paul,
And I'm Jeremy King.
and we love you all.